Now, we'll start in a few more minutes and we'll move to the join. So today is week 5. Um, we're still waiting for more people to join. So please wait for some time. We'll start with the lectures. So we'll start in a few more minutes. At least we'll wait for 5 minutes and then we'll start with today's class. We'll discuss about week 5 today. So today is week 5. Yesterday we had another session on which is week 4. Today we will be covering week 5 topics and some remaining topics that we covered last time. And next week would be week 6. So next week would be normal Sunday timings and like normal timings that we are doing every week. So we'll just start in 2 more minutes. I think people are still joining. So um, please let me know if you are not able to join me clearly or in the chat so that I can sort of make some changes. Okay. So just to give you a recap of what we discussed, I mean for people who couldn't join yesterday, we discussed about merge sort and quick sort, some of the analysis on them and some problems from those assignment problems. We'll possibly would be going towards that and all, like some aspects of the problems from those sorting algorithms in terms of assignments and all. We'll discuss that today. But first, we'll cover the topics on week 5. on exception handling and all. That would actually be sort of like the first few R would be on recheck topic covering so that anyone has any doubt we can discuss those. And then we'll get back to the problems, assignment problems. Um, so we'll start once around 3:08 once more people are joining in. So if you have any doubts from yesterday's class or any before that class, please post in the chat. We'll have a look and we can discuss it. Oops, sorry. Sorry, I think my mic was muted. So what I was saying was that today we'll cover this topics on week 5. This is for new people who are just joined in. We will cover on exception handling, input output, standard input output, how to write those, file handling in Python, string functions and all. We'll also discuss side-by-side problems and assignments for these problems on week 5. And if we have time, we would at the end we would also discuss some of the problems from yesterday, which was on sorting algorithms. We discuss at guide extend to different sorting algorithms like not sort, quick sort, and all. But we will again, if we have time, we will again discuss that today. So I'm just waiting for one more minute. I think since people are still joining in, we'll start with exception handling today. So what specific questions you can expect, and also any doubts if you have there, we could discuss those, and we'll go ahead with that. So initial first hour or hour and a half would be on week 5, whatever topics we have on week 5, and then last 30 minutes we can cover on sorting and other previous weeks discussion doubts and all. Okay. I guess we can start. I think. We'll first discuss on exception handling in Python. I guess if you are familiar with any other sort of like languages like C++, Java, and all, you probably know about different types of exception handling. But I just covered it very briefly with the notion that so many of the students here may not be familiar with exception handling. So I will go from an introductory approach just to give you a brief insight what is exception handling that we are trying to solve here and how in Python you can do so. So I'm sharing this tab. I hope you are able to see. So basically, just let me know if you are not able to see in the chat. Like if you are able to see. Um, okay. Um, so in case of Python, I think in and any other languages, such there is always this syntax errors that might be possible. Obviously, as we discussed in the first week, that in Python you don't need to do any sort of like semicolon or sort of brackets and everything. That's what like you do in C++. But there is often some things like indentation error and all these things that you need to be very careful of in Python. So syntax errors are basically like parsing errors, which are sort of like the most common kind of error that you would encounter when you are like trying to code in Python and all. So an example here is the following. So while true, you have a print statement which says hello world. So this thing is a syntax error because uh, when I do a while loop, so after a while statement, I add the boolean function. In this case, it's just true. That means the while loop always executes in this case. So after that, I should add a semicolon here. Not a semicolon. It's just a colon. A colon here we should add. After that, I can add in the next line with some indentation. I can add the print hello world. But if you see here, there is no colon here and there is no next line and no indentation. That's why it gives me a syntax error. And the error is that it says invalid syntax. So the parser actually repeats this corresponding offending line and displays the little squiggly arrow that you see here. Which if you try to run it, let's say I have I can show you on my VS Code also, just to give you a brief insight. Just give me a moment. I'm just trying to open that. Um, yeah, I think I can show it at the end. I think after covering some of the topics, at a whole, like all the syntax errors and everything, week 5's topic in one single code. But for the timing, what happens is that when you try to run this code, you will get this kind of error thing that would say like it's a syntax error, and you would get this kind of squiggly kind of lines like this that would say like the error actually is occurring at this point. And in the above example, the error is detected at the function print since the column is missing before it. So now this is like typical syntax error that you might encounter during while coding in Python. There are other types of errors also. For example, if a statement or expression is syntactically correct, it may also cause an error when an attempt is made to execute. So errors that are detected during execution are called exceptions and are unconditionally patterned. So that means uh, so basically, that means that when you try to run that code or whatever the code's output that you are expecting, this obviously won't give you that code output, but obviously it will give you other errors and you can't. You need to solve it by seeing the output itself or during execution itself, whatever output you are seeing. Based upon that, you need to see that. So with that, I think we'll show some examples here. For example, I'm doing 10 into 1 by 0. So this is a typical error. It's called zero division error. Basically, that means division. I'm doing division by 0, which is invalid. So it gives me error like this. Similarly, here, for example, I do 4 plus spam into 3. The thing spam is not defined actually. The spam variable is not, I haven't defined it. So it shows me the following error, which is name error. Name spam is not defined. Um, Similarly, other errors can be like if you try to add string and integer together, you will get something like type error, which is basically you can't concatenate two different data types into a particular data type. For example, string and integer, you can't concatenate into a string. So these are different types of errors that you can see here, apart from the syntax error, typical syntax error that we see. So how do you get past this kind of errors? Like, so this is what we would be discussing here. So how do you handle this kind of exceptions? So one way to do this is to write programs that handle specific selected exceptions. So what do I mean by this? Basically, that I know there are certain type of exception, like let's say value error is one type of exception, name error we saw is one type of exception, zero division error is one type of exception, syntax error, so on. So these are like common type of exceptions that people encounter. So what we do is something like this. So we do while this is just an example that I'm showing here. So while true, which means this loop is always getting executed, I do try and then I have I accept statement. Try and accept statement. Within the try, I try to do this thing. It is some statement, and basically here I'm actually taking input from the command line argument for x. So I will come to this thing because this is also part of the week 5 lecture about how to handle string, how to handle input outputs in Python. So basically, I'm assigning x to some value, and if that is a wrong thing, I raise an exception saying that value error where this is not a valid number. For example, let's say instead of entering a number, I enter a string. Let's say. So there, um, this would actually throw an error. So int of, let's say, a string can be like, let's say, house. Let's say int of house is a value error because you can't. House is not a number; it's a string, right? So that's why I would give you a value error. So when the value error is encountered, you basically just print this statement like this is not a valid number. You should try here. So the basic building blocks here is that the try statement works as follows. Firstly, the try clause, the statements within the try and except keywords is executed. That means this statement and this statement is executed. So, so basically, if I if this statement goes particularly well, I add a break statement here because I can then simply um, escape out of this try except kind of loop that I have. So if no exception occurs, the except clause is basically skipped and the execution of the try statement is finished. If an exception occurs during the execution of the try clause, the rest of the clause is skipped. That means if an exception occurs at this point, any line that is there between after this line number, there's no line number here, but after this line and before except, none of them get executed. It straightly directly goes to the value error exception. So if an exception occurs during the execution of the try clause, the rest of the clause is skipped. Then if its type matches the execution name after the except keyword, then the except clause is executed, and then execution continues after the try except block. So whatever code you have after this line would be executed after the try except block is executed. So if an exception occurs which does not match the exception named in the except clause, it is just passed on to the outer try statements if no handler is found. So basically, if you don't have, let's say, it is actually a name error or not a value error, but here in the code you didn't specify name error. So in that case, what happens is that if the exception occurs which doesn't match the exception named in the except clause, it is simply passed on to the outer try statements. And if no handlers is found, there also it is an unhandled exception, and execution stops with the actual error message. So, for example, I get a name error here. I would actually get the actual exception message saying the name error, this thing is wrong and all, instead of getting value error, which is the print statement here that you should actually get. So, this is like your corresponding like basic try exception how things work and all, and there are multiple flavors you can actually try out. For example, you can have multiple errors in one go instead of having just one single error. You can have runtime error, type error, name error, so on. You can have as a tuple kind of thing. And so that is one way to think of. We haven't discussed class and object-oriented programming in Python, so we are skipping this portion. But you can also see later on in week 6 lecture also that exceptions can be also be handled in class and this kind of things. Okay, so let's try some examples. I think that should give you um, some idea. I think let's see. Um, so okay, so I think the we also have file handling file reads in Python as our topic also, so we can cover that also together. I think. So, but I think in let's in try exception handling. I think the main thing I think is clear, right? So if you have any doubts, you can post in the chat. You can look into some problems if you want also. If you have any doubts in assignments for exception handling, feel free to post it in the chat. Um, yeah, please feel free to write in the chat if you have any doubts. Okay, so there is a question I think from Shreya. So what does exception mean? So basically, exception means any errors that you encounter. Um, so basically, exception in the English vocabulary, what it means is like except doing this thing. That means avoiding that thing, what else you can do. So that is the actual meaning of exception. Like for example, I want to do this work except I don't want to work on this. So in an English sentence, that actually how it means. So in the context of exception handling here, what it means is that I try a block of code which is this thing, except if I get a value error, I just print this. That's the simple, plain and simple definition of except here. So I will try a piece of code which is within this try block, except if I get a particular error. For example, in this case, it's value error. I just simply print this thing. And so this is the entire thing is called exception handling because with except I'm saying like if this kind of errors happen, uh, I am except this kind of errors happen, I would anyways execute the try block. Otherwise, I would execute the corresponding errors. Like based on the error, whatever error I'm encountering, I would actually add the corresponding messages. Like the print statement would get executed in this way. So that's the main idea. Um, okay. Um, Okay, so let's discuss some small problems. I think in exception handling, I think this should give you some ideas about in terms of exam problems like you can expect. So, okay. So I'm just sharing my screen. I hope you are able to see that. So the first problem is this: what is an exception in Python? So one of the questions. So what do you think would be the correct answer here? Um, is it a syntax error? Is it a runtime error? Is it a compile error? What is it? Sorry, I just um, sort of anyways, I clicked on it. So I think it's the runtime error, but because during execution we are actually seeing this exception. As I mentioned in the definition, during execution we are seeing the exception or the error. That's why it's runtime error. Um, okay, so programming assignments and phases of week four. So okay, so we can solve the week four programming assignment first, and then I think we can go to the next. Okay, let's discuss week four first. I think then we can go back to this. There's some doubts I think we have. Okay, so this is week four programming assignment. So write a Python function frequency I that takes as input a list of integers and returns a pair of the form min frequency list max frequencies, where min frequency list is a list of numbers with minimum frequency in I sorted in ascending order. Max is the list of numbers with maximum frequency in I sorted in ascending order. Okay. Yeah, so this is the example. For instance, frequency of this thing um, is between 7 and 13. So um, we can say mean frequency is max frequency. So 7 has a frequency of 1, 11 has a frequency of 2, 13 has a frequency of 4, um, 12 is a frequency of I think 2, 14 is a frequency of 2. So basically, 7 is the minimum frequency because it has 1 only, 13 has the maximum frequency because it is repeated 4 times. So let's solve this problem. I think it's basically we need dictionaries to solve this. Python dictionaries, I think week 4 we discussed yesterday composition of which dictionary, so we can solve this. Okay, so let me open my VS Code just to propose this. Um, okay, I'm sharing my screen. I hope you will be able to see soon. Okay. Um, so I guess you are able to see my screen now. So this is my VS Code where we will be writing the program setup. So thing is, we are given a frequency list which is this thing 11, 11 something, anything you can think of, and you are you have to focus that it should return me mean frequency list first and then max frequency list. Um, so okay, so let's do that. I think so. Let's do def. Let's do def frequency count with list as this. Basically, I'm doing. Okay, so my voice is just. Okay, I'm just switching off my camera for the time. Just let me know if you're able to hear me clearly right now. Can anyone hear if you are able to hear me clearly? Hello. Hello, can you hear me clearly now? Okay, so I'm just switched off my video. I think that's actually causing some network issue. So we'll discuss the frequency list problem now. So actually, so it requires the use of Python dictionaries for sort of doing this. So I'm defining a frequency dictionary, which is initialized like this. And now what I'm doing is like for frequency in frequency list, that means um, I should rename the variable. Let's say like for number in frequency list, if a number is already in the frequency dictionary, I do the following. I just for that. So basically, the frequency dictionary has key is the number and the value is the corresponding frequency. So now what I'm doing here is that for the first time, let's say frequency dictionary is empty initially. When I see 11, for example, in the first iteration, I just simply go to the else condition because the number 11 is not in the empty dictionary. So frequency dict at key number 11 is initialized to 1. And then I go to 23 now. Uh, for 23, I again see like 23 doesn't exist in the frequency dictionary because in frequency dictionary currently only 11 is there. So I go to the else condition again, and what I do is like I get frequency dict of at key number 23 is initialized to 1. Now I see 11 again. The 11 was already in the frequency dictionary. What I do is like I just simply update frequency dict at key 11 equal to plus equal to 1. So what this is basically means is that so this is just another way to write this exact thing. It is equal to is equivalent to writing this thing. Frequency dict number is equal to this thing plus 1. So I think in C++ Java also I think similar things are there. Basically, in shorthand, you can write it something like this. So basically, I'm implementing the value by just one, and let's actually change the return statement. So basically, we want to find the number for which we are getting a minimum frequency on the first thing, and the second pair would be the number with the largest frequency. So what I can do now is I already have the frequency dictionary. That means all the numbers with their corresponding frequencies. So I can do some level of sorting also. So basically, in Python you can have you have some aspect of like sorting operations that is already there that you can utilize. So frequency sorting. Let me I did this thing. Frequency dictionary is basically I'm again and what I'm doing is here is that I'm sorting by the frequency dictionary items where the key is basically the values here. Basically that means the frequency values here. Let's put in this first. I think once we print this, I think it will be easier to see what it actually is doing. So in sorted dictionary. And let's actually take the example from the problem itself, which was, I think, this one. Let's take this example. Okay. Um, let's see what is the sort of value that I get. So I'm doing Python. Oh, sorry. I think I have to. Okay, so the sorted dictionary here is that 13 is 4, 12 is 2, 11 is 2, 14 is 2, and so on. Basically, the sorting, if you see the reverse, I'm setting reverse equal to 2. That basically means is that when I'm doing sorting, I'm doing it in a descending order or a reverse order. So the value with the highest frequency is at top position, which is 4. The value of the frequency of the item, which is minimum, is at the lower position, which is at the bottom. So now I just want to print the first key and the last key only. That should I only do. So that is the one that I use. So I can just do sorted dictionary. Um, of, um, but one thing is that I can only access by the key values, because in dictionaries, obviously, if you try to access outside of the key values, you get an error. So I can only access with respect to the key values. How do I do this? So I can do um, simply like um, do this statement. So what I'm doing here is basically I'm converting the keys now into a list now, which is let's say I am assigning it to something called key list, and I want the first list value and the last list value. That's all only. So that could be key list 0 and key list minus 1. I just remove this print statement now. I just comment it. Um, I think I did the opposite. I need to first print the larger one and then the smaller one. This is my final value that I get, which is 7 and 13, which is what they have also here. So let's try a different example now and see what I get. I should get 7, 13, and 14. Okay, so I think we need to also see because um, in our current how we have done it, I think only one maximum would actually get printed, not all similar maximums. So I think we need to make some changes in the code for us to do that. So okay, so we need to find out the key list which says that it gives me the maximum and the minimum first. So I'm just printing once more this thing. Let's see the other testers. So this would actually give me a wrong thing because I'm actually printing only 17 and 13, not 14. Although 14 is still has 14 also has four numbers. 14 has frequency. 13 also has four as frequency. So I need to print both 13 and 14, and for the minimum I need to print 7 only. So instead of having something like this, we need to do something else so that it gives us some idea how to do this. So let us write it. Uh, so for item in frequency bit, or let's say sorted dictionary, sorted dictionary item. So this sorted dictionary item actually gives me the value because item is the key that I'm using here as key. So this actually gives me the value, and I have to find out the maximum. So for that, what I do is like I have something like a max list, which is an empty list like this, and I have a min list, which is again an empty list, and I'm removing this thing. I just think max list and min list, right? So now, what I would do is I'll see. I will also have something like max frequency. Basically, it's the sorted. Is the maximum of the dictionary frequency values is basically max frequency. So if my sorted dictionary item is greater than equal to max frequency, I just simply append the corresponding key to it. Else, I just append not main list actually. Let's say um, uh, in frequency. I also do is mean of sorted and so on. I just add this thing. Else, if sorted is less than the mean frequency, I just append the same. So now let's run this thing and see what happens. So now you can see I'm getting 7, 13, and 4. Okay, so let me just check once more. I think first I need to print mean frequency list and then max frequency list. Let's do that. I think I reordered the number again. I'm just removing the dictionary Python here. Okay, so it gives me 7, 13, and 14, which is as expected in the corresponding thing. Let's try for this test case and see what happens. I get 12, 11, 7, and then 13 and 14. Basically, the same thing 7, 11, 12, and 13 and 14. Okay, again, trying this thing first one out again, first example. I get 7 and 13. So I guess this problem is solved. So any doubts in the code, anything that you have, please feel free to ask. I guess this standard problem, I think using that uses dictionaries. So any sort of questions here, you can ask. Okay, I think we can then move ahead with the next question. Um, I hope my voice is audible. I think audible. Okay. So the second question is that airline has assigned each city that it serves a unique numeric code. It has collected information about all direct flights it operates. We presented as a list of pairs from of the form I. Okay, I think that is fine. Yeah, we'll do week 5 assignment. So yeah. Let's complete week 4 and then. It can be represented as a list of pairs of the form I, J, where I is the code of the starting city, J is the code of the destination. It now wants to compute all pairs of cities connected by one intermediate hop. City I is connected to city J by one intermediate hop if there is direct flights from I to K and K to J. So write up Python function one hop I that takes our input a list of pairs representing direct flights such as and returns a list of all pairs where I is not equal to j, such that I and j are connected by one hop. Um, okay, so for instance, 2, 3, 1, 2. So 2 to 3 I can go, 1 to 2 I can also go. So one hop would be 1 and 3. 2 to 3 in the second case, 1 to 2 I can go, 3 to 1 I can go. Uh, okay. So 2 to 3 I can go, 3 to 1 I can go, and 1 to 2 I can also go. So 1 2 is part here, 1 3 is also part here. Um, yeah, I think you can use, there is a question I think in chat. So you can use inbuilt counter also I think for a dictionary, but it's addressable to do just a normal dictionary also. I think whatever suits you like in terms of like coding like style and all that. So you can use either of them. So just understanding the problem. So 3 2 2 4 4 1. That means I can go from 3 to 4 also. So 3 to 4 is here. 3 to 2 is already here because I can do that. 4 to 3 is also possible. Okay, so in the last case, obviously there is no connecting points, so that's why it's left on 7th list. Okay. So before we solve this problem, because it's a bigger statement, I think anyone has any doubts about the problem statement itself, any understanding the problem statement? And can anyone post any questions here about that? So this is like a uh, typical like example of in a scenario like in a competitive programming scenario. If you do, if you're doing any on any platforms, you would see like this bigger problem statements. Um, okay. So so I and J are connected by one half, that I is not equal to J. It may already be the case that there is a direct flight from I to J, so long as there is an intermediate K with a flight from I to K and K to J, the list written with a function related I to J. So in this case, I 1 to 2 is actually getting written. So that means 2 to 3 and 3 to 1 is there. Um, or I should see like 1 to 2. Um, okay, so 1 to 3 and 3 to 2 is there. So that's why 1 to 2 is also there. But although 1 to 2 is already given here, I should still print 1 to 2 because that is the one half that I'm getting here. 3 to 2 and 2 to 4, I would get 3 to 4. That's why I'm printing that. 2 to 4 to 4 to 1, I get 2 to 1. So I get 2 to 1 here. And I need to get 4 to 2 also. So I can do port to 1 and 1 to 2, get port to 2. I also need port to 3, which is from port to 1 and 1 to 3, get set up port to 3. Okay, so let's write this problem statement. I think make this program. I'm deleting this function now. Yeah, please post your doubt. Okay, so yeah, I'll just explain the question once. Then question one. So the question is that we have a airline which assigns each city that it serves a unique numeric code. That means the airline travels from point 1 to point 2, and then there is again a flight from point 2 to point 4. So 1 and 4 actually are connected via point 2. So that is my one hop distance or one hop destination source destination pairs. Uh, my goal here is in this problem statement is that I'm given a pair of these airport destinations where there are direct connecting flights. That means from airport 2 to airport 3, there is a direct connecting flight. From airport 1 to airport 2, there is a direct connecting flight, and so on. My goal is to print those source and destination airports such that there is a single single airport in between. So, for example, let's say I travel from the airport number 2 to airport number 3, and then I again travel from airport number 3 to airport number 1. So, 2 and 1 are actually connected via one hop distance with one hop, because basically I'm doing only one hop sort of. I'm only doing one destination in between, which is airport 3. So, given a pair of these source and destination airports, which are direct connecting flights, I have to print the ones which has this one hop kind of distance. So that's my problem statement, and we need to solve that. Okay. Um, I hope that clears the thing. Um, yeah. Any questions in the problem statement? Any questions in the problem statement? Okay. So the problem statement itself is a big thing. I think that's why it's getting a bit confusing. But it's anyways a very simple problem. I think you can solve it easily in that sense. So okay. Um, okay. So let me now write the programs. Okay. So there is let me share my code screen. I think I'm using this now. Okay. I hope you're able to see. Okay. So there is a question. I think first let's discuss that. Um, is it possible to compute the time complexity of any code or only where for a for loop is limited? And is it possible to compute the time complexity of any code? Yeah, so you can actually compute the time complexity for any code. I mean, in terms of uh, cost associated. For example, typically in programming, like in algorithm codes, for example, if you have taken. So, for example, return statements, you can think of it as cost of one single unit cost. If you have a for loop for, let's say, n numbers in a array, so each of these n numbers add contributes to a single unit cost. So one cost. So when you have a for loop over all the n numbers, it will have you n total cost is equal to n. So time complexity is actually calculated in that sense. So if you have a for loop, it's ordered of n because total n cost is incurred. If you have two nested for loops, one is from I equal to 1 to, let's say, a, and j is equal to 1 to b. So for the first iteration in the for loop going till a, you have to do all b number of iterations for the inner loop. So that's why the for the first iteration in the outer loop, you have total cost equal to b, and if you do this for multiple times in the outer loop for a times, your overall cost comes out to be a into b. So it's order of a into b, or in many cases it's called as order of n square, where you have, let's say, if you want to iterate across n numbers, uh, and you also have a nested loop where you have your for looping over n numbers. So order of n square. So likewise, it's not necessary that only while, for, and if conditions and all only requires time complexity, but mostly in questions and all, like people ask you with those things, but you can define cost for any statements in Python. Okay, so let's write this thing. Okay, so let's see what I did here. I actually just sort of wrote this code in one single line as a list comprehension kind of thing, because this comprehension is something we covered it. So we'll discuss that. So what I'm doing here is that I'm actually returning the output list, which is this thing. So I am returning x of 0, y of 1 for x in the list L, and for y in list L. If my x of 1, so basically, what is x and y? X is any destination source square. So for example, x is 1, 2, y is 3, 4. Let's say. So x0. So these are all tuples. These are all tuples. Tuples we already discussed yesterday. So these are all tuples. Because in the problem statement it's given as tuples, so you can have it as tuples. This is my list. This is my example list. And this is my example list. For any one, so for example, x is this one, and I take y as this one. So x of 0 and y of 1, I'm returning that for x in L and for y in L. So remember, this is a nested for loop that I'm doing here. So for x in L and for y in L, if x of 1 is equal to y of 0, that means x of 1 is basically the destination pair of x, destination airport of x is equal to y of 0. That means it's equal to the source of the other another pair. So for example, 2, 3. Let's take a proper example. Let's say x is 2, 3, and y is, let's say it's 3, 1. So this is my y, and this is my x. So x of 1 basically means 3 is equal to y of 0, that is this thing. Then I return x of 0, which is 2, and y of 1, which is uh, uh, 1 itself. So 2, 3, 3, 1. I just have to return 2 and 1. So I'm returning like this, and I do it pairwise comparison across all x and all y's in the list L. So I do for all x in L and for all y in L. And also I add an extra condition that x of 0 should not be equal to y of 1. That means if I'm doing something like this, let's say, so 2 of 3 and 3 of 2. Basically, it's a same airport only, right? Because I'm going from source airport 2 to destination airport 3, and again coming back from 3 to 2. So I need to avoid this case, so I'm not printing this. So this is my overall thing. So let me print two test cases. For L, I actually have this thing. Let's actually start with the simple ones. I think 2, 3, and 1, 2. Um, so I get 1, comma 3 as answer, which is this one. Let's try this one. I get empty list as expected. Now try this larger one, which is a bit tougher. Let's see. I get 2, 1, 1, 3, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, and so on. Okay, so I'm getting almost similar results here. So I can do an extra condition. I think I'm getting some repeated numbers. 2, 1 and 2, 1 is getting repeated twice. So what you can do is also you can have something like a set of this thing, and then again have a list. The set, what set does is actually it actually uh, only keeps only the unique numbers instead of having repeated numbers. So if I do this, um, an extra addition of 2, 1 is actually gone. I have 1, 2, 2, 1, 3, 4, 4, 3, 1, 4, 4, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3. So basically the same numbers that I'm getting. So that's the okay. So I hope that makes it clear. I guess there are some test cases. So let's actually try out some more test cases. Um, just to see if things are going well. Uh, oh, this is the first problem. Let me try this one. So we can 244168. You can see 24 is there, 4168, 9191 is there, 96 is there. Okay, I think also they wanted the ordering to be in some fashion, I think. So I think let's do that. The input list may be in any order, but the pairs in output list should be in lexicographic or dictionary order. Each pair should be listed exactly once. So this thing we already took care of by using a uh, set data type. So you just need to follow this thing. The pairs in the output should be in lexicographic order or the dictionary order. Okay. Um, so let me see if I can try something like sorted and it solves it. So this is my thing 1324 week 5 4146 5257 6868 7979 So this is lexicographically sorted now. So I just added a sorted function here. You can write a typical thing like quick sort. Let's say also like you can write quick sort algorithm also, and you can have the same thing. Uh, you can simply replace this with quick sort also. And I just use an inbuilt sorting function to. So I hope that clears your doubt here. I think that's it for I think assignment 4. I think week 4 assignment. Any doubts here? Okay, I think we can then start with week 5, programming assignments and all. In the meantime, if you have any doubts, you can take a 5 minutes sort of small break and then we can come back for the week 5 assignment. I think it's this. I just opened it. So if you have any doubts from week 4, please let me know. We can take a 5 minutes break. We will be back at 4:08 and to discuss. Okay, I think we can start right on this. assignment. I think there are some doubts in the chat. I think we can sort of look at these doubts at the end of the lecture right now. So let's first discuss the week 5 problems and then we'll come back. If you have any general doubt or anything, please share in the chat. I'll have a look. Um, okay, so let's look at the week 5 problems. I think there is week 5 programming assignment. Um, let's see how many of them. This is only one, I think one problem I think is only there. Okay, so let's see the problem. A tennis match is made up of sets. A set is made up of games. To win a set, a player has to win 6 games with a difference of 2 games. At 6-6, there is often a special tiebreaker. In some cases, players go on playing till one of them wins the set with a difference of 2 games. The tennis matches can be either of 3 or 5 sets. The player who wins a majority of sets wins the match. That is 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5 sets. Um, okay. Um, Score of a match lists out the games in each set with the overall winner scores repeated first for each set. Thus, if the score is 6-3, 5-7, 7-6, it means that the first player won the first set by 6 games to 3, while the second game won 5 games to 7, and won the third won 7 games to 6. We'll read inputs from the keyboard, standard input, containing the results of several tennis matches. So, of the following format, which is winner, loser, set one score, until set case score. Okay. Um, okay. So the main problem statement is here. So anyone has any doubt in the main problem statement? Before proceeding, so basically this kind of problems are mostly seen in competitive programming where you have a very detailed problem statement and you have to read it more than once to get an understanding of what this means. So that's why it's better you should build a habit of solving this kind of problems. So if you have any doubts, please ask in the chat. Any doubts on the problem statement? Okay. So we are actually doing week 5. Okay, so there is. So can anyone share the quiz one actually? Also, I'm only seeing assignments only in the list. The quiz, which quiz you're finding? There is some question in the chat. I think. Okay, so let's try to solve this problem anyways. Then if we have time, we can go to quiz. Because this kind of programming assignments probably would expect in the actual exam also. Okay, so again, like there's a question by Sanjit, like any suggestions where to get this kind of problems for future practice. So I would highly suggest to solve competitive programming kind of problems. Like HackerRank is one of the best problem spaces you should work on. It has a dedicated Python, intro to Python practice problems that you can easily solve. Or it's an online, yes, online sort of studio or in terms of online editor that you have, where you can run code and all. So I would definitely suggest try out on HackerRank, and then you can go to other websites like Code Forces and another like I think one was on um, HackerRank, Code Forces and all. So these are like competitive programming websites you can try your hands on. So that should give you some. So I'm just sharing here in the chat Code Forces, HackerRank, and HackerRank. Okay, so this is the thing. This is the resources to try out from. So let's get back to the problem. What it means, what is it trying to say here? Uh, so basically, problems like this is basically the main sort of thing here is basically understand the problem statement very thoroughly. Because writing the code is not that hard. I mean, it would require you only a few lines of code to write the code. It's just that you need to understand the problem very carefully or very clear on what the problem is. Then only you can solve the problem in code. So that's one idea. Um, okay, so let's look at this problem once more. So to win a set, a player has to win 6 games with a difference of 2 games. Okay, so at 6-6, um, tennis matches can either be 3 sets or 5 sets. Um, so that means, for example, 3 set basically means this is an example of a 3 set where you have 3 games actually, uh, 3-6, 6-3, 6-3. It can be three sets or 5 sets. The player who wins a majority of sets wins the match. For example, 2 out of 3 sets or 3 out of 5 sets. Um, the score of a match lists out the games set with the overall winner score. We put it first for each set. Thus, if the score is 6-3, 5-7, 7-6, it means the first player won the first set by 6 games to 3, lost the second one 5 games to 7. Um, okay. Okay. I think I'll just request everyone to please focus on the current problem that we're trying to solve. I think we'll come back to the other problems that we are posting in the chat. Also, we'll have a look at. Because this is part of week 5 assignment. I think uh, there have been requests before to solve this assignment. So I think I will first solve this and we'll go back to the other problems. Okay. So to win a set, a player has to win 6 games with a difference of 2 games. Okay, so for a particular set, has to win 6 games with a difference of 2 games. Um, and here they won the whole match because they won by 2 sets, which is this one and this one. Okay. Best of 5 matches. Um, okay, first let's try to write the inputs and how to write this input thing. I think because this thing is also part of lecture 5, sorry, week 5 lecture series. Let's try to write the code for this. Okay, let's try out this thing first. Let's try out a few examples. Um, I have to pass this as a argument, I think. Okay. So I'm adding this delimiters. I think in Python we have these things called delimiters. These just indicate for new lines. Okay. So anyways, we'll pass the scores like this. So I'm doing a split operation, which is along this column thing. So it would split me along this column thing. So it would give me a player one and player two, the list in 0 and 1, and the scores should be split along with comma. So it should give me 2 6 as my first score and so on. So right. So Federer 6 7 7 6 6 3 6 1. Um, the first after each player, I should give the first one, which is number of best of five set matches won. In this case, the Federer will be three because um, um, so this match is won, this match is won, and this match is won. Um, and in this case, this one like Federer. And this is one loss. This is his one loss, and this is also one loss. It- So I'm actually removing this line. Um, okay, yeah. So I'm trying to print the original scores just to see if it's correct or not. As you can see, I'm getting the original scores as 6-3 and so on, 4-6. It's also I'm getting the corresponding scores that I require. Um, just need to see that whether we are doing this correctly or not. Um, okay. Um, let's actually take one example first and then see. The original scores is 2-6, 6-7, 7-6, 6-3, 6-1. So that is correct. Um, and let's print the player one score and the score. So now it's actually I need to have in this setting like this. So for the zero, normal zero. Um, just to I'm just here I'm just doing some sanity check on the correct input file reading procedures, like from the command line input file, whatever I'm sending, whether I'm using it correct or not. So this just for that. So I'm actually getting correct scores here. So and also the correct results. So let me now try to see. Uh, so anyone has already solved this problem? Anyone has any kind of hobby? Like most of the people have already faced some issues while solving this problem. Because I mean it's a bit medium problem because you need to understand the problem statement very carefully how the best of three is getting calculated here, how the best of five is getting calculated. So anyone has already gone through this problem statement before or had any doubts? Could you please post this in the chat? Okay, so we need to print for each player the best of three. Uh, and here the answers see that um, number of games. So first would be the best of five set matches one. So for Halle and this thing, best of five, they're only doing best of three. So that's why it's zero for best of five, both for Halle and Wozniacki. For best of three, it's one only because it's three is the best, and that is getting one. And for Wozniacki, I think best of five, he's not winning anything, so that's why it's zero for him. Um, uh, I said no. But I think I need to understand the problem a bit deeply. I think it's not clear how they're calculating the best of five or best of three here. So they haven't given the exact definitions yet. So probably we need to think about this a bit. Um, I don't expect, I think, this larger problem statements in the actual exam, but this is just to, so this problem actually has two sides. One is to just to test your how you do input reading from for Python, and also after that, like how you use dictionaries and all those things. You need to use dictionaries here also, but uh, I'm not clear. So we have already done the input successfully, like taking the input from Python command line and solving that. It's just not clear, like the ones that they are trying to print, how best of five is getting calculated and how best of two is getting calculated. So I think so. Yeah, so maybe I think I can we can discuss this problem. I think we are short on time. We can discuss week five problem again next week. I think this should give us some more time to think about this. In the meantime, there were some questions in the chat. I think we can discuss this. So nested definition. So there was an example of nested definition. Yeah, so nested def you can think of something like let's say you have a definition of a function. Within that also you can even define a function itself. So that is something which is called as nested definition. So function definition within a function. That is what is called a nested def. So I hope that answers your question. Um, okay. So the other question was on there's some other problems written I think someone has a question. Okay. So how do I develop good coding logic? I think uh, you need to practice almost like almost daily, or maybe as much as you can. Practice uh, problems online, like on platforms like HackerRank, LeetCode, or Code Forces and all. That gives you an idea about seeing these problem statements and solving them. And because one of those platforms actually has a lot of discussion forums also. For example, in the problem statement, if you have any doubts and all, you can readily ask anyone in the chat there. They would give you hints or maybe clarification about the problem statements and all. All those kind of things are already there. So I would highly suggest you to practice first, and if you practice enough, I think you should be able to solve it. Okay, I think with that, let's continue to next week. I think we don't have any specific other things to discuss. So another question from Gopika is that what types of questions can you expect in the exam? So one question can be on programming, like for example, the assignment programs that we are seeing. Although it would be shorter problems, not like larger problem statements that we are seeing here. Shorter, small problems, like for example, the frequency list problem that we saw, similar to that, and previous weeks what we have done, similar to that, you can expect. And those are the kind of problems that you can think of in case of this programming questions. For example, in quizzes, I think some of the quiz problems you can also see, like for example, time complexity wise analysis, all those things you can sort of think of are some of the questions you can get asked in the exam. Okay. Let's. I think we can end the call today. I think we are almost on time. So thanks again for joining today. We will be hosting our next lecture next week, Sunday, same time, 3 to 5, on week six lectures and also some portion of week five. And we'll discuss that. So thanks again for joining today. I hope you have a good understanding.
Milk in lickables with Oreo chunks and more to Patlu toys. Scoop it, lick it, love.